Bible in a Year, Day 191, readings from the Holy Bible, the second book of Kings, chapter 25, the second book of Chronicles, chapter 35, Proverbs, chapter 9. Second book of Kings, chapter 25. In the 10th month of the 9th year of Zedekiah's reign, on the 10th day of the month, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and his whole army advanced against Jerusalem, encamped around it, and built siege walls on every side. The siege of the city continued until the 11th year of Zedekiah. On the 9th day of the month, when famine had gripped the city and the people of the land had no more food, the city walls were breached. That night, all the soldiers came to the gate between the two walls near the king's garden. The Chaldeans had the city surrounded while the king went toward the Arabah. But the Chaldean army pursued the king and overtook him in the desert near Jericho, abandoned by his whole army. The king was therefore arrested and brought to Riblah to the king of Babylon, who pronounced sentence on him. They slew Zedekiah's sons before his eyes. Then they put out his eyes, bound him with fetters, and brought him to Babylon. On the 7th day of the 5th month, this was in the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, Nebuzaradan, captain of the bodyguard, came to Jerusalem at the agent of the king of Babylon. He burned the house of the Lord, the house of the king, and all the houses of Jerusalem. Every noble house he destroyed them by fire. The Chaldean troops who were with the captain of the guard tore down the walls that surrounded Jerusalem. And Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, led into exile the last of the army remaining in the city, and those who had deserted to the king of Babylon, and the last of the commoners. But some of the country's poor the captain of the guard left behind as vine dressers and farmers. The bronze columns that belonged to the house of the Lord, and the stands and the bronze sea in the house of the Lord, the Chaldeans broke into pieces. They carried away the bronze to Babylon. They took also the pots, the shovels, the snuffers, the cups, and all the bronze articles used for service. The fire pans and the bowls that were of solid gold or silver, the captain of the guard also carried off. The two columns, the one bronze sea, and the stands which Solomon had made for the house of the Lord, the weight in bronze of all these articles was never calculated. Each of the columns was 18 cubits high. A bronze capital 3 cubits high surmounted each column, and a netting with pomegranates encircled the capital, all of bronze, and they were duplicated on the other column on the netting. The captain of the guard also took Seraiah the chief priest, Zephaniah an assistant priest, and the 3 doorkeepers. And from the city he took one officer who was a commander of the soldiers, 5 courtiers in the personal service of the king, who was still in the city, the scribe in charge of the army who mustered the people of the land, and 60 of the people of the land still remaining in the city. The captain of the guard, Nebuzaradan, arrested these and brought them to the king of Babylon at Riblah. And the king of Babylon struck them down and put them to death in Riblah, in the land of Hamath, and thus Judah went into exile from their native soil. Governorship of Gedaliah. As for the people whom he had allowed to remain in the land of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, appointed Gedaliah, son of Ahikam, son of Shaphan, over them. Hearing that the king of Babylon had appointed Gedaliah over them, all the army commanders and the troops came to him at Mizpah: Ishmael son of Nethaniah, Johanan son of Kareah, Seraiah son of Tanhumeth, the Netophathite, and Jezaniah son of the Maachite, each with his troops. Gedaliah gave the commanders and their troops this his oath. He said to them, "Do not be afraid of the Chaldean officials. Remain in the country and serve the king of Babylon, so that all will be well with you." But in the 7th month, Ishmael son of Nethaniah, son of Elishama, of royal descent, came with 10 others, attacked Gedaliah, and killed him, along with the Judahites and Chaldeans who were in Mizpah with him. Then all the people, great and small, left with the army commanders and went to Egypt for fear of the Chaldeans. The release of Jehoiakim. In the 37th year of the exile of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, on the 27th day of the 12th month, evil Merodach, king of Babylon, in the inaugural year of his own reign, raised up Jehoiakim, king of Judah, from prison. He spoke kindly to him and gave him a throne higher than that of the other kings who were with him in Babylon. Jehoiakim took off his prison garb. He ate regularly in the king's presence as long as he lived, and for his allowance the king granted him a regular allowance in fixed daily amounts for as long as he lived. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Second book of Chronicles, chapter 35. Second book of Chronicles, chapter 36. Jehoahaz. The people of the land took Jehoahaz, son of Josiah, and made him king in Jerusalem to succeed his father. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he became king, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. The king of Egypt deposed him in Jerusalem and fined the land 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. Then the king of Egypt made Eliakim, the brother of Jehoahaz, king over Judah and Jerusalem, changing his name to Jehoiakim. Necho took Jehoahaz his brother away and brought him to Egypt. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord his God. Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, attacked and bound him in chains to take him to Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar also carried away to Babylon some of the vessels of the house of the Lord and put them in his palace in Babylon. The rest of the acts of Jehoiakim, the abominable things that he did, and what therefore happened to him are recorded in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. His son Jehoiakim succeeded him as king. Jehoiakim was 18 years old when he became king, and he reigned 3 months and 10 days in Jerusalem. He did what was evil in the Lord's sight. At the turn of the year, King Nebuchadnezzar sent for him and had him brought to Babylon, along with precious vessels from the house of the Lord. He made his brother Zedekiah king over Judah and Jerusalem. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord his God, and he did not humble himself before Jeremiah the prophet who spoke for the Lord. He also rebelled against King Nebuchadnezzar, who had made him swear by God. He became stiff-necked and hardened his heart rather than return to the Lord, the God of Israel. Likewise, all the princes of Judah, the priests and the people, added treachery to treachery, practicing all the abominations of the nations and defiling the Lord's house, which he had consecrated in Jerusalem. The fall of Judah. Early and often the Lord, the God of their ancestors, sent his messengers to them, for he had compassion on his people and his dwelling place. But they mocked God's messengers, despised his words, and scoffed at his prophets, until the Lord's anger against his people blazed up beyond remedy. Then he brought up against them the king of the Chaldeans, who killed their young men with the sword in their own sanctuary, with compassion for neither young men nor young women, neither the old nor the infirm. All of them he delivered into his power. All the utensils of the house of God, large and small, the treasures of the Lord's house, and the treasures of the king and his princes, all these he brought to Babylon. They burnt the house of God, tore down the walls of Jerusalem, burnt down all its palaces, and destroyed all its precious objects. Those who escaped the sword he carried captive to Babylon, where they became servants to him and his sons until the Persian kingdom came to power. All this was to fulfill the word of the Lord spoken by Jeremiah, until the land has retrieved its lost Sabbaths. During all the time it lies waste, it shall have rest while 70 years are fulfilled. Decree of Cyrus. In the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, in order to realize the word of the Lord spoken by Jeremiah, the Lord roused the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, to spread this proclamation throughout his kingdom, both by word of mouth and in writing. Thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord, the God of heaven, has given to me all the kingdoms of the earth. He has also charged me to build him a house in Jerusalem, which is in Judah. All among you, therefore, who belong to his people, may their God be with them. Let them go up. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Proverbs chapter 9. two women invite passers-by to their banquets. Women wisdom issues her invitation. Wisdom has built her house. She has set up her 7 columns. She has prepared her meat, mixed her wine. Yes, she has spread her table. She has sent out her maidservants. She calls from the heights out over the city. Let whoever is naive turn in ear. To any who lacks sense, I say, come eat of my food and drink of the wine I have mixed. Forsake foolishness that you may live. Advance in the way of understanding. Whoever corrects the arrogant earns insults, and whoever reproves the wicked incurs opprobrium. Do not reprove the arrogant, lest they hate you. Reprove the wise, and they will love you. Instruct the wise, and they become still wiser. Teach the just, and they advance in learning. The beginning of wisdom is fear of the Lord, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. For by me your days will be multiplied, and the years of your life increased. If you are wise, wisdom is to your advantage. If you are arrogant, you alone shall bear it. Woman folly issues her invitation. Woman folly is raucous, utterly foolish. She knows nothing. She sits at the door of her house, upon a seat on the city heights, calling to passers-by. As they go on their way straight ahead, let those who are naive turn in ear. To those who lack sense, I say, stolen water is sweet, and bread taken secretly is pleasing. Little do they know that the shades are there, that her guests are in the depths of Sheol. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.